In this three-part video series, I'm going to share the techniques that I use for processing my bear at home. One of the things about processing the bear that's most important to me is processing the entire bear. So one of the videos will do front shoulders, one of the videos will do hindquarters, and then the third video I'll show you how I process the rest of the meat on the bear. This video on processing your bear at home will likely be very different from anything else that you're going to find on YouTube or anywhere else, but I promise you, if you're willing to put in the time and a little bit of work, you're going to have a result that you're going to be excited about taking every part of that bear home with you. So let's head to the cutting board and get started. My name is Timothy Broche. I believe it's a suffering for what you take that is the true measure of a trophy. My style of hunting and fishing takes me beyond pulling the trigger, pushing my mental and physical capacity to enhance the experience of the harvest. The water and woods call to me. Okay, we're just starting to get ready to do the hindquarter on Preston's bear. So a couple things to be aware of. The shoulders actually don't look too different from front to hindquarters, but the hindquarters have the ball joint. There's no skeletal structure that connects the front shoulder to the body. It's just all muscle, so it's real easy to tell which side you're working on. But one of the things about the anatomy of bears, it's different from all the other animals that you're likely going to harvest, unless you get into shooting cougars. They've got two bones in the lower part of their leg, and front and hind quarters. So it makes it a little bit different as you're taking these apart, but we'll talk a little bit more about each cut. Right now I'm just going to start taking all the silver skin off of this, get the outside of it cleaned up really nice, and then we'll look at some of the different pieces of the meat and what you might be able to do with that. So this is a spring bear. If this was a fall bear, there'd be probably an inch or better of fat over this whole hind quarter. One of the things with game meat is you don't want to leave the natural animal fat on the meat. You want to clean it all off. Although with bear, you can render it down and use the lard for cooking or soap or lots of other things, evidently. But spring bears typically don't have a lot of fat on them. So you just seen that I took off some of the fat on the outside, but this lining that covers the meat needs to come off too. So this is the silver skin. What everybody refers to as silver skin is just connective tissue over the muscle that connects the muscle to the bone. But you need to make sure, just slip your knife under that. I'll show you here in a second, and that will just peel right off. But we want to make sure there's nothing left but just nice clean meat. Okay, so I'm just ready to separate the lower part of the leg of the hock from the upper part of the hind quarter. As I mentioned before, one of the challenges with utilizing the lower part of the leg on this is that they've got two bones here, which means there's tons of little tiny muscles that run all different directions through here. So typically, what I would do with these, there's two things you can do. You can just clean them up and debone this and grind it up for sausage, which is what we're going to do with Preston's bear. Or if you leave these in a chunk, you can throw them in the pressure cooker for about an hour, which does two things. It really tenderizes the meat nicely, allows to clean out all of this little connective tissue and silver skin from the meat, and you can chunk it up. It works really well in stew, and it's tender. If using the pressure cooker is going to give you a way better result than using a slow cooker in a fraction of the amount of time. But I'll show you. I'm just going to take this apart with the knife, separate this piece after I finish cleaning up a little more of this connective tissue over the top of this. And then we'll rinse this off. You can just rinse some of this hair and dirt and stuff that we got off in water. It doesn't hurt it at all. But cooking it with the bone in the pressure cooker will give you a lot of flavor too. Well, let's go ahead and separate this out.
Okay, so on this hind quarter, I just got the outside of this cleaned off pretty well and taken a couple of the chunks of the muscle off. But I just wanted to show, it doesn't matter what you're going to do with these cuts, it's best just to take these things apart. So you just want to kind of follow in between the muscle groups and separate each one of these. So whether you're going to keep some of these for roast or if you want to try steaks or whatever, just separating these out, just take your time and follow right in between those muscle groups. You can get all the rest of the connective tissue, any little fat. There'll be lots of fat on fall bears down inside the meat. But you can just, I just wanted to show that you can just kind of separate that out and then finish getting the silver skin off and then decide what you want to do with it from there. If you do keep for steak, just remember, cut them thin, no medium rare. Bear needs to be cooked to a minimum of 165 to 170 degrees Fahrenheit to make sure that you're killing any parasites that are happen to be in meat, like trichinosis. So I'm just going to go ahead and continue separating this out. Take all these little pieces apart here, and then we'll finish cleaning each one, and then I'll show you what these look like when we get them done. Preston are just about finished with this first hind quarter, and so I just wanted to show what the result of that is. So these are the bigger chunks in the hind quarters. It's all cleaned up, all the silver skin and fat and connective tissue off of these. So you got your top and bottom round. You got your sirloin tip, which are just names that we give things. It's somewhat irrelevant. Just know that these are the pieces if you're going to keep for steaks or a little roast are ideal. One of the things, this is a really good example. When you separate out all the cuts like this, instead of doing it like the butchers at the commercial shops do, they just take big chunks out of the quarters. They do it just like a beef or a hog. You're going to get multiple pieces in each cut, which is going to make some of it much more tough than others. So if you got one piece with the grain running this way, and this one the grain runs this way, and you just took a big chunk out of there, which is what happens when they butchered at the commercial shops, you basically get two different pieces in the same cut, and it's going to be very, very tough. So if you're going to keep these for steak, these would be the pieces, or again, roast if you want to do little roasts or stew. They're really good in stew. If you cut them for steak, you want to make sure, like naturally, you would kind of want to probably cut this way down here. But if you can see the grain of the meat is running this way, you always want to cut that at 90 degrees or perpendicular to the grain of the meat.